invite you. Come on in. Welcome to the Scumm Bar. Welcome to the Scumm Bar Podcast, Marvel Movie Marathon, where we go through the 22 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting with Iron Man donning his first suit and ending with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. We're going to talk Iron Man, Captain America, I didn't write anything new here. So
we might bring it up.
The Eye of Agamotto,
yes,
and everything in between. I'm your host, Captain Mattbrush, and with me today is
not the
Mordo himself.
Why am I Mordo of all people? Oh.
That's the first name I thought of.
Oh, I hated Mordo. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm Mordoz. Totally Mordoz.
Well, hello, Anth0z. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mattbrush.
To anybody who doesn't understand what's going on, we normally write down some things there to help us on our little script. Totally forgot to write down the beginning part of it. Skipped ahead and did the rest of the script. So because of that, I was just trying to improvise.
And it went spectacularly.
It went exactly as I expected. Warning for anybody who's listening right now, the Scumm Bar Podcast, I hate to say this, it's going to contain spoilers.
Spoilage.
For this movie and the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, if you don't want to be spoiled with the spoilage, run away. Run away right now and never come back.
You are so
and
animated.
Never come back.
Again.
If you enjoy the Scumm Bar Podcast, though, be sure to leave us a like and a subscribe or a comment or any of your favorite things that you want. Just go to any of your favorite podcasting platforms and just give us.
You fit that in really well. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I already made a noise that sounded kind of like it, so I was like, there we go. I'm doing this.
So it's happening. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anth0z, I'm on a roll right now. But this week, for our Marvel Movie Marathon, we're going to be talking about 2016's Doctor Strange.
Yeah, talking about roles.
I know. Starring Benedict Cumberbatch role, Tilda Swinton role, Rachel McAdams role.
McMuffin.
I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but Chiwetel Ejiofor? I probably got it way wrong.
Probably.
And Mads Mikkelsen, which is surprisingly easier to say.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Before I butcher more names, Anth0z, why don't you just go ahead and give us a nice synopsis summary of this whole film?
After a horrible car accident, brilliant neurosurgeon Stephen Strange must find a way and a cure to his healing his hands. His quest brings him to Kamartaj in Nepal, where he studies under the Ancient One, who teaches him the ways of magic and alternate realities. With new skills of interdimensional travel and spells, Strange soon discovers that he must protect the world from a deadly enemy who is out to destroy it.
Dun, dun, dun!
Yeah.
Will he win or will he prevail? Or wait,
find out when you watch
this week's
the movie
episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Find out 5 episodes later.
So what Anth0z and I like to do here on the MCU podcast is what we want to break it down into 3
Is this the MCU
acts.
podcast, though? Can we call ourselves the MCU podcast?
Well, no, we are Scumm Bar Podcast doing the
Just
Marvel Movie Marathon.
I thought maybe we got sponsored. I just didn't know about it.
I just made the MCU version of the movie marathon stuff that we do.
Okay.
But what we like to do is like to break it down to 3 acts.
Break it down.
And then we talk about each act separately. Before we do that, though, I usually like to give a recollection of what this movie was like in theaters. I gotta be honest, though, I don't remember this at all in theaters. I know I saw it in theaters, but I just don't remember my thoughts. I don't remember anything about watching this movie in theaters.
I remember thinking Inception a lot because of all this, the scenes like on the streets and the highways and like anything to do like
the effects.
Exactly,
the effects,
all the effects. And I also remember thinking the whole first opening, like we'll get to it, but when he first goes through like basically the multiverse or just like a space and time and everything, like the first time he gets hit into astral projection, I remember thinking like, wow, that was a really, 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 really long scene of just him going through everything. And yeah, in the theater I thought it was a bit too long. Watching it now, I don't mind it. I think because I can kind of appreciate a little bit more actually like the artistry that went into the stuff that you see during that moment. But anyway, I I think I remember coming out of it thinking like, oh, that was a fun movie. And yeah that's it.
I wish I remembered a little bit more about it all from the theater experience, but yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't even tell you what theater I went to. I can't remember really anything about it. So,
when did it come out? 2016.
Yeah, I think the issue is that I watched it a few times when it then released.
Yeah.
Then I watched it more after the fact, so I get it all blended together, and I can't remember now.
Well, you were definitely in Vancouver still for that one.
I was, yeah.
So yeah.
All right, so let's get into Act 1 here. Let's just dive right into it and start going.
All right.
So Act 1, I like to name Strange's Anatomy.
That's great. Oh, I like it. I called mine A Turn of Events.
Oh, why a turn? Because he took a wrong turn?
Well, I guess he didn't really make a wrong turn, but I mean, like,
it was on a turn.
Things, yeah. Well, so that is part of it. The other part is that there's a lot of him learning about how to use the sling ring, and he's just like constantly doing. Oh right. Like doing the wax on, wax off gesture, which is kind of like he's turning the wheel.
True. Yeah.
What did you just do to me?
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
What just happened?
For a moment, you entered the astral dimension.
The what?
A place where the soul exists apart from the body.
Why are you doing this to me?
To show you just how much you don't know. Open your eye! That shit just goes... Yeah. It's like so crazy at that moment.
Yeah, it's very crazy, yeah.
Anyways, let's get into the movie here.
Alright.
Movie starts off with Kaecilius and his goons escaping.
His Goombas.
With his Goombas. Goomba Kai. And they're all heading out with the stolen page.
Yep.
For some reason, I wrote this in here just as a little quote because for some reason his line when he goes hypocrite, for some reason that always just stays in me and like in my head there for a little while because I like his delivery. I'm a big Mads Mikkelsen fan. I actually haven't seen a lot that he's in, but every time I see something he's in, I really enjoy it.
Oh yeah,
so I think he's great.
He always does such a good job.
I'm not a big fan of Rogue One, and we don't need to talk about it, but he's great in Rogue One.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
he does fine in that one. Yeah. Wasn't he also in Casino Royale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I know one of the James Bond movies for sure.
I've only seen about half of that film, but you're totally right. He's the bad guy, I believe, in Casino Royale, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't think of a time where I've seen him and I didn't like what he did. He did really well. Yeah, that scene when he said hypocrite, I was like, wow, something about this is already, to me, like, very powerful.
It's deep, exactly. Yeah, I like that. Powerful, you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really cool scene just because you know there's a lot more going on than what you're actually watching. You're watching a really cool battle, and there's all this, like, funky, cool, interesting stuff happening. But when he says hypocrite, it tells you there's so much more than what you even know.
Yeah, it kind of gives you something. Like, even though we don't, like, later on, they're not, they don't become, like, the main, like, either of them are the main protagonist or somebody that we kind of follow as well as we follow Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. But that scene gives us something to be invested in already without Doctor Strange being in the movie, like, being introduced yet. Yeah. So, which I think is it was a kind of a cool opening. At the same time, I was thinking, like, something about this seems very cliche for, like, a typical a movie about, like, magic or myths kind of thing, where they don't start with the main antagonist or main protagonist you're going to follow, but they start off with, like,
it's very Harry Potter, starts with Dumbledore and Minerva, and there's all this magic going on, and then it gets into Harry Potter's origins. Yeah. Or Lord of the Rings does the whole prequel battle and all that kind of stuff, then it gets into the Shire.
Yeah, like, it's kind of like that. Sure. It's like this is the whole prelude happening right now. Is that what it's called? Prelude? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Prologue? It's epilogue. Prelude, prologue? Sure. Whatever. Anyway, yeah.
Prelude and prologue.
Prelude.
Anyway, so yeah, we go through that quick little scene there. We still don't know much about what happened, but there's a nice little fun battle scene, and we see the Ancient One using the mirror world there. It's kind of a fun little moment. Mm-hmm. And we quickly cut off to Grey's Anatomy, or our favorite episode of ER, or Doctor House, and we now have Doctor Strange, and he's feels so good. He's doing some music trivia and trying to talk about Chuck Mangione. I do like this scene because it's very Iron Man-esque. He's very cocky. He's very full of himself.
Super cocky. Yeah.
He puts his money where his mouth is. He's good at what he does. That's what I really like. He's cocky, but he's also good, which is that's a fun hero for sure.
Yeah, and then I guess, like, I think we kind of get it in the opening that he doesn't like to rely on anybody else. Like, he'll only rely on himself because he only trusts himself to have the knowledge or the skill to do the right thing, right? Because he doesn't trust Nick to help him. So Nick is like that other surgeon who was going to take the that body away, thinking that it was dead.
Yeah,
and then he wanted to be the one to assist, but he said no, automatically. But it could be for other reasons. But I think that already kind of goes to show you that he's not somebody who's going to trust other people very easily. He's just really inclined to like, it's my way or the highway kind of thing, right?
For sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like the whole turn of events there. Yeah, there's the scene and he does that surgery. He tells Nick, oh, subtle clue to time, by the way. This whole movie has time all over the place, and they allude to time many moments, but it all starts with the very first time when he tells Nick to cover his watch with his hand there so that he can perform the surgery. But they do a lot of watches, a lot of clockwork, a lot of time, because the whole thing is leading up to the stone, which is the time stone. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so yeah, I really like the whole surgery scene. I think it's great. And I love the moment at the end there when they tell the people that obviously the surgery went okay, and they go to hug. They go do the hug and all that.
And he does that side hug?
Yes, he does the side hug. You can watch Benedict Cumberbatch. He's a great actor. And the performance he throws in here for Dr. Stephen Strange, yeah, you can tell that he's very... it's just to himself. He's very to himself. He likes to keep everything just to him, and he doesn't really like to let people into his space. So
yeah,
it's funny living in a COVID world and then watching a movie like that where there's like a hug going on, but he's like already a little bit hesitant to accept that hug.
That's
like,
right.
It almost looks like something that's happening during COVID. Like,
yeah, it kind of does actually. Nowadays, even though I watch something that is from before, if I see people kiss or hug or get like really close, I'm thinking like, what? They can do that? Oh wait.
Yeah.
Back to reality. But
yep.
Yeah, I think that side hug, I guess, yeah, in a way it also kind of represents that he didn't really do it for them. He did it for his own satisfaction or own glory, right? Because I think later on when he encounters Pangborn was like, oh, I came to you once, but you didn't take me because I was an untreatable case and there was no glory in it for you, kind of thing, right? So,
well, I think his is also a mix of arrogance there. I really think he wanted to put Nick in his place. Later, Christine, she gets mad at him for making Nick look so foolish. And I think a lot of it was just him trying to make Nick look as foolish as he could. And also probably in front of Christine, because as we later find out, he still has a lot of feelings for Christine. Right. He just doesn't know how to show it.
Yeah.
So after this whole montage at the beginning, we get a little nod to the fact that him and Christine used to be in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And then Strange is going to head off to a public meeting where he's going to be doing a conference, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Another subtle nod where he's choosing a watch he wants to grab. And he's got
all
many
those
different
watches.
He's got a
and
ton
they're all
of watches.
spinning. They're turning.
If you could turn back time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn forward time.
We get a terrible car crash scene that comes up when he goes and drives to the meeting. This thing, like, it's like a jump scare. Like, it got me in the theater, I think. I'm pretty sure it got me in the theater. If I could remember that from the theater, but I'm pretty sure it got me there because ever since then, now when it's coming, I'm like trying to anticipate when it's going to happen. It's just like, it's very subtle because he like looks at his phone and then it just hits out of nowhere, which makes it kind of realistic and freaky, actually.
Well, yeah, and it's also like it starts raining out of nowhere just before it happens, and it's all dark, and I think like the way that it spins, it's just so rapid.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of adds to the effect. Like I know, thinking about that in the theater, I was like, holy, this seems like so intense.
It's very brutal. Like I mean, it should be more brutal when Tony gets hit by like a shrapnel piece and all that stuff. Like that should have been more brutal, but this one feels more visceral. It just hits me really hard when he gets hit by that, or when his car goes flying like that. I don't know why. And then watching the dash crunch over to his hands. Yeah. It's just, it's really brutal every time I watch it.
I actually still have a hard time looking at his hands.
I know.
Like with the, it's just, the makeup is done so well. And the fact that he's constantly shaking, it actually, like, I feel it as I'm watching the movie. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but yeah.
Well, notice that later in the film, too. They do a great job of telling you what his hands are like in health. Just for his acting, but they don't use dialogue sometimes. They'll just show it by showing the hand. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. One brief thing here is they actually mentioned Rhodey, I think, on the radio call there, because they talk about a pilot or a corporal or something that needs to get an operation done.
Oh, okay,
so
I was going to look into that.
They're alluding to Rhodey.
Yeah, they must be, because I remember, well, I made a note saying like, oh, are there any Easter eggs or things to mention? Because they mentioned like 3 different victims, and I was like, one of them has to be somebody that we've already.
I'm sure the first one was Rhodey because they talked about it being a pilot, and then he's like, well, somebody else can deal with that one or something. And he essentially mentioned that guy's got a bunch of people that could operate on it.
Yeah.
So,
like Tony, but not
exactly.
Really. Tony's team.
After the car crash, we get a bunch of moments there, like you were explaining, where he's in the hospital recovery bed. He's got all the pins and needles all in him and stuff. And we get that crazy line where he's like, I could have done better.
I could have,
Oh, jeez.
So cocky.
It crushes me because, it's ego. but he knows he probably could have though, right? Like
Yeah.
it's ego, but it's also he is one of the best surgeons out there. So
Yeah, it's a little heartbreaking. It kind of
it sucks.
random thought. It reminds me of that episode in Friends. I haven't done this in a long time, but there's a scene in Friends where it's Joey. He's I think he's coming back to. Oh no! It's when he gets fired from being on Days of Our Lives, and they find out that he gets like thrown down an elevator shaft, and he can't
shafted.
He got shafted, and he can't recover because the only person that would have been capable of doing surgery on his brain was himself. So
I forgot about that.
Anyway, yeah. So
that's so good.
So Friends
I love
reference
it.
there.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, these scenes are actually pretty heartbreaking where he's he's lost a lot of ability in his hands. He's trying to recover, but he's going through just a lot of strain. He goes for another resurgery. It seems like he goes under again. They try to do surgery on him again.
And it's also something that he looked into himself, or like it's from his own knowledge, right? Because he during I think he was with the board, and he said like, "Oh, do this, or whatever," and then they were like, "Oh, that could work," like as if they've never thought about it, right? So it's again him still trying to control the situation.
I also don't like watching the scene where he's got the hand stress thing.
Yeah.
He's pulling it, and when he's pulling it, you can see all the tendons and everything working in his hand, and it's just you just feel for him. Like you feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
Even though he's also like I don't know, it's because it's real. Like since he's angry about it, it feels so much more real to me. I connect with him so much more because of his anger. It's weird, but I really like it.
I think he doesn't really need to show emotion verbally. Like we'll get a little bit later on, but it's really just in the subtleties. Like because every once in a while you'll see him, like he'll be standing or sitting somewhere, and like his fingers will be shaking a little bit, right? And it's not something that it's meant for you to watch or to take notice of, but it's just there. Yeah. It's just like constant reminder, like this is where he's at, and I always feel it. Oh man, I just got to the scene like on my screen where he was trying to shave, and I remember
and he's trembling.
God, I remember in the theater. I do remember this part now. Yeah, in the theater, like as he was holding it, I was like, oh, like I'm picturing myself trying to do it and trying to hold the razor, and like, it's so difficult.
What's really important though is that they're showing how much he's trying. That's something that we're trying to emphasize so much here, is how much Doctor Strange or Stephen just keeps going. He just keeps trying and trying and trying, and he doesn't give up. And that plays throughout the whole film, and it also plays really intensely into the ending of the film. Yeah. But he does not give up. So I really like the scene where he sends Christine away. She comes in, and then he's all mad because there was a doctor who would not go with the operation that he thinks will work. Doctor doesn't want to try it, so that might have been his final resort. We're not sure, but it seems like it. And then Christine comes in. It just happens to be a bad moment, and he sends her away. And he says that line, "You care so much," and just the way he says it is so good. It's just like it just cuts right to the heart of it. She hates hearing it, like that he's some kind of dog that she's taking care of, although it might be true, but she hates hearing it anyways, and then leaves. That's the problem, is he's probably saying a lot of truth in his words, but nobody, like, he's just not tactful about any of it, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. It's the execute, or like the delivery of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
But also on that note, Benedict Cumberbatch's American accent in this is really, really good. Yeah. When he says that line specifically, "You care so much," it was actually in the trailer, and I remember hearing it going like, "Ooh, that's good. Like, that's really good."
He just rounds out those words, and he enunciates.
Well, when you're used to him as Sherlock for so long, and then you watch him in this, it's an interesting contrast right away.
Oh, completely different. Yeah, it's such a flip, and I think I was so used to watching Sherlock that when I saw him in this, I was like, "What the?"
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So next we find that he seeks out a man named Jonathan Pangborn. He hears that there is a guy who lost the ability to move any of his arms or legs or anything. Probably it was a spinal injury, right?
Yeah, spinal injury. So he was paralyzed from like somewhere around like the chest down. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So this man apparently now is able to walk again, which Stephen Strange doesn't understand at all. He says it's impossible, but no, this man is apparently able to do it. So he goes and seeks him out, and I really like this actor who plays this guy. You can tell he's not like an extra actor or like a C or D list actor. Like you can tell they actually got like a who could have probably played a lead in this movie kind of actor to play this character. Yeah, because his subtleties are really, really like right on when he's talking to him, and you know there's so much more behind him when he's talking. Yeah, and interesting guy, and essentially tells Steven that he has to seek out the Camartage, yes, Camartage. Yeah. Interesting little place.
Seek it out, and was it? He didn't really say much other than like he was talking about how he wanted to elevate himself mentally. So that was kind of like the reason why he went. Like he wasn't actually trying to heal himself physically, but he thought like, what else can I do with my body while I'm in this situation? It's elevate myself mentally, which I think like I feel like I like the fact that he went for that purpose, not that he went to heal himself physically and then got that and then left, but he actually went for something. Like he was trying to figure out like what he could do left with himself. Like he accepted his fate, and then he went to go do something to still like find a way to still have purpose, but in the end was still rewarded with that miracle of being able to take his gift and take it and then walk with it, which I feel like that is a good conversation for Strange to have at this point, because like I don't know if I got enough of it throughout the whole movie, but I find that there are a lot of times where, and I'm sure it's on purpose, that he's putting his own take or his own answers or his own way, his own methods on like every single step pretty much throughout this whole movie, right? I think I wanted some more kind of building in different aspects of what things that it seems like he should be learning or like adapting. Right. So at least like having this conversation where it's supposed to prompt him, like you're going to these people because like you're supposed to be elevating, or like because you should be expecting something better for yourself, like mentally, as opposed to trying to fix your hands for like what you think is good for yourself. Right. So I just thought that it's a good important conversation and like separation for Strange to know about before moving forward. Yeah, that's all.
I think so. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so when he to go and seek out that, he goes to where is Kamar-Taj? Is it in India?
No, it's in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Kathmandu, Nepal. Thank you, Nepal.
Yeah.
So it's in Nepal. Mm-hmm. So he seeks out Kamar-Taj, and we get a few sequences here of him just kind of Kamar-Taj.
Kamar-Taj. I was wondering if maybe like did they cut out extra scenes of him just like walking around like a zombie like Kamar-Taj?
Kamar-Taj. It's like he's like homeless and he's asking for change.
It's pretty funny.
Kamar-Taj.
Yeah.
There is a moment where I just watched a deleted scene actually where he is healing a dog. There's a dog with a limp, and he takes a little stick and he makes a splint for the dog. And it's really interesting because in that moment, that's when Mordo actually notices him and watches him make the splint for the dog. And I really wish they kept the scene in, because that was my big question: is why is Mordo care so much about Stephen Strange?
Yeah,
he has a lot of hope for him at the beginning and really wants him to do well. And it just doesn't make much sense. But at the beginning, apparently there was that deleted scene with the dog, and Mordo's watching him heal the dog, so he has some kind of reason to think that Stephen Strange is a good person.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been a good thing to have, because otherwise it's kind of it is kind of weird that he just suddenly starts stalking him. It's almost like he just happens to have some sort of sense about him, but I don't know if that's enough. That's not something. That's not like a core principle of what they do at the at Kamar-Taj, right? Like they don't sense things in people, but they just use their spirituality to harness magic, right? It's a different kind of principle. So it's kind of weird for him to just follow him with that mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
And right when the deleted scene ends, right when he comes up from healing the dog, is actually he got distracted with the dog, so the people were circling him that end up jumping him. So it actually totally makes sense. It all connected really well, but they actually cut it out. So, but yeah, so he then gets jumped, and what do they take from him? They take from him his watch, which is one of the most important things to him. His watch has the Christine writing on it and all that. So again, time playing into the movie. And they end up, as they jump him, and he fights them back with his like hands that are in pain, and you get that moment where he punches them, and then he instantly groans because he hurts his hand.
Yeah.
What ends up breaking in the end is the watch. So the watch gets broken and it doesn't tell time anymore.
Yeah.
Mordo ends up helping him and comes to his rescue and fights all the guys in a very Marvel karate way.
Oh, sorry. I also wanted to mention the whole thing about the watch. I assume it's meant to be symbolism for him, like the watch itself, like seeing that the watch is broken. Like he's at his lowest point up until when he gets to Kamar-Taj. So that's when his watch breaks and it's cracked. And then he looks back at it like every now and then throughout the movie, and then later on he puts it back on, because he kind of like accepts whatever his fate is. So I kind of feel like I think the watch is meant to be symbolism for Strange, like as a person, or just like Strange's life.
Well, I think time, the natural law, ruled his life a lot, and I do believe that at that moment when it breaks and time freezes, then maybe that's him letting go. It's almost like letting go of the ego that he has to do later, but it's like letting go of the time that constrains his life. I think that's the symbolism they're going for.
Yeah. Okay.
But time comes into most characters in this movie. It's not even just him. It plays, as we see with the Ancient One as well. So time is all over the place with this movie.
Yeah.
So he gets into he gets jumped, Mordo saves him, and then Strange gets to go inside Kamar-Taj to meet the Ancient One. There's a little bit of a mix-up where he thinks one of the other guys is the Ancient One, and it turns out that no, Tilda Swinton in the corner was the Ancient One, of course.
Yeah.
And then we have that...
Oh, I was actually going to mention that. So in the comics, I don't know if there are any comic versions of the Ancient One that are female, but yeah, or like originally... that I know of, that the Ancient One has always been a male figure.
Right.
So I find it's interesting that Marvel decided to have a female figure to play the role, which to me, like, I feel like that kind of just justifies that you don't ever have to stick to a pre-made character, like their ethnicity or the demographic or whatever. You can get anybody to play like a certain character. Like, you don't have to just play to the... You don't just have to play the character, you know what I mean? So like it's, I don't know, like if they can do it, like why? I'm not saying that other people don't do it, but I feel like there's still kind of like this stigma. I'm sure, well, maybe there's some sort of stigma that if you have a movie where you are adapting from, say, a book or a comic book, where the book itself says that the main character is like a white person, blue eyes, blonde hair, but then you don't have to cast that kind of person like that. You don't have to cast somebody with those specific traits, right? Like, I don't see why you can't just cast anybody else as long as they can actually act, like do the roles and portray what the character is supposed to portray. You know what I mean? I don't know why I'm going on a tangent on this, but it's just something.
It's all good. I mean, I think it's all relative depending on how popularized the character is.
Yeah.
With this one, I don't know anything about the Ancient One, and I really think that Tilda Swinton did a really good job. So it doesn't bother me at all that they gender bended the whole character. I think it's totally fine because it doesn't change anything for me. But I think there's lots of movies out there where if you change the look and feel of the character or the gender of the character, it would probably disappoint me. Might not necessarily ruin the character, but I'm sure it would disappoint me. Like if it was somebody I was expecting to be a certain way or look or talk a certain way or something. And that does happen. But I mean, there's other ones that it doesn't matter, like the Dark Tower, where they had Idris Elba play the main character, and as far as those books go, he's supposed to be a white guy, but they made it Idris Elba, and it didn't change anything because the culture of the character was still there. Everything about the character was the exact same for his mannerisms, right? And so it doesn't actually change anything. And I think the same thing here with Tilda Swinton when she's playing the Ancient One. I'm assuming, at least, that the mannerisms of the actual Ancient One from the comics are there exactly here with Tilda Swinton's character. So
yeah, very likely. I mean, I also don't know. I don't have much of a background on the Ancient One other than him being male, but I mean, I really enjoy the way that she acts as the Ancient One. Anyway,
me too.
It's like she's not somebody who is just the character itself, the Ancient One, like the way she portrays it. It's not that they're just 100% of the time they're wise and they have the answers to everything. But no, like sometimes I think there was a couple moments where she's kind of like unsure. Like she's having a conversation with Mordo. And I think it's actually just before they let him back in that she's so unsure about bringing him in because of what happened with Kaecilius, having training somebody who ends up being succumb to the dark side kind of thing. So
the dark dimension.
Yeah, the dark dimension. So yeah, I think she does that well. She doesn't show too much of like regret, but enough that like she doesn't have the answers to everything, and she questions still like just the same, right?
Definitely.
So, yeah.
So when he meets her for the first time, she does her little mind games. We went over the scene at the very beginning, and then she ends up tapping him on the forehead and taking him off into a bunch of different multiverses where we can now be introduced as an audience into the idea of multiverses and magic and all that stuff. It's really trippy. I just was watching in the background here. There's a lot of weird places he goes to. We see hands climbing from hands. We see him falling into his own eyeball.
Yeah.
we see just a lot of weird stuff. It reminds me of Rick and Morty in a weird way. It's very funny how it goes to like multiverse and multi dimensions and stuff. It's really interesting.
I never watched Rick and Morty, but yeah, the scene. I was thinking the people who must have made this whole clip must have had such a fun time. It could have been like really stressful. Who knows? But I feel like sky's the limit with your creativity. Like do whatever you want. And like, that's just what happened.
There's one where there's arms or hands grabbing arms. And like they keep like grabbing each other as they go up. The exact same effect is used in It Chapter 2. Where there's a moment where the main character puts his hand into a sewer, and then all these hands are grabbing hands and grabbing hands and grabbing onto his. Yeah. And I wonder if it's like some kind of like After Effects program or some kind of like 3D modeling program that does this like modeling of hands where they shoot out from hands. And it must be because it's like the exact same effect. It looks the exact same too.
Yeah, this is sort of like replication factor, like domino effect sort of thing. Yeah.
Maybe you choose the shape and then it just creates from itself or something. I don't know, but yeah, it was very interesting.
Cool.
There's in this moment we also meet Dormammu. We meet him in the multiverse here for a brief second. He kind of flies past Dormammu as we're talking about the dark dimension. Yeah. And we learn that there is this realm where things are evil, as you mentioned. The dark side and the light side, and the gray matter in between. So then he comes back from this, and as we mentioned earlier, he says, "Teach me," because now that he sees it, he understands it's there. There's some kind of world of information that he doesn't know yet, and he wants to learn it. Yeah. I really like that moment. Just teach me, and then no. He just gets kicked out.
Yeah. So did she say no because like I was thinking that she just said no because like he didn't acknowledge what just happened as something like, oh, this like, you know, this is something like, forgive me for not realizing, or forgive me for being so arrogant, or, you know, some sort of acknowledgement is like what was missing, and that's why she said no. Is that, I don't know.
I think it's out of fear. I think that she sees how much he wants to learn. Like, I think that she was maybe thinking she might frighten him by making him leave, but instead of frightening him, she knows how good of a doctor he is, obviously, and how well acclaimed he is. And then after she shows him that, the first thing he wants to do is get more knowledge. I think instantly she knows from Kaecilius that she doesn't want another Kaecilius. So I think out of fear, she just says no right away, as in like it would be wrong to do this. Then again, you have to remember that she also knows that Strange is going to be as good as he is. She's seen timelines and universes, and she's seen it all anyways. So she might even know that by saying no, that's the best pathway or timeline for him to get to where he gets to. So
yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah. I wonder if we're gonna see a lot bit more of that in the multiverse. Or the,
I hope we do.
The Multiverse of Madness when that movie comes out.
Yeah, I really hope we do, because it's a very interesting concept. So once he sits outside for like 8 hours or so, eventually Mordo, you know, Mordo's just like the sad puppy in this whole thing. He's just kind of like, can we just let him in? Like, eventually she's like, fine, whatever, we'll let him in. And he gets led into the building, just grabbed from the shoulder and just pulled in. I like that. And then there's that Wi-Fi password scene that we
Shambhala.
That was in all the commercials, where we realized this was actually gonna be a funny movie and not so serious.
Although it wasn't too funny. It wasn't like,
I think we heard it too many times. I I remember seeing it, I think, on is first, when it released, and I was watching, and I was like, that joke's just not funny. Like, not anymore, at least. Like, it's just, I've seen it too much.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the movie as a whole, I didn't find it to be, like, a funny movie. You know, like, it wasn't kind of like a,
not Guardians kind of fun or anything, no?
Yeah, nowhere near Guardians. I sometimes compare it to, like, Spider-Man. I think only because of just his responses sometimes. It just, it's, like, his cockiness is Tony, but I think his actual, like his vocabulary, or just, like, the way that he speaks is more, it reminds me more of Peter Parker.
That's interesting, because those are probably the characters he crosses over with the most, I think.
Are they? Really?
It seems like it. Then again, actually, I think Doctor Strange crosses with everybody.
You mean throughout the movies?
Yeah, well, I mean, in general, too, with comics. But I just think, like,
in comics,
he's a big crossover character, too. But I know he crosses with Spider-Man. I mean, it's all New York City-based characters anyways, right? But,
yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, well, that's where I ended Act 1, but I think your Act 1 goes further.
Well, my Act 1 kind of ends there. It actually, I feel like, what did I do?
What did I do?
Getting into dormant training. Okay, so I sort of cut my act. So my Act 1 ended. I probably should have ended it there. That would have made the most sense. I happened to end it just after he got back from Everest.
Okay, well, yeah, that's fine. We can
But
continue.
you know
No.
what? I think I might have done that not really realizing, like, oh, like it should have actually been earlier.
Yeah,
So,
in my opinion, it kind of changes right there with his character and his attitude and yeah.
yeah, I totally did. I think as soon as he started, when he started shaving himself, I was like, oh, it's a new Strange, it's a new act. I think.
Right.
But that's kind of just like a weird justification. So let's go with yours. Let's go with yours.
Okay, well, we'll end that. So that'll be Act 1. Now, moving into Act 2, I named it The Strange Cult.
Cool. Okay. I named mine Gotta Spell 'Em All.
Gotta spell them all?
This in this act, we just happen to go through so many
new spells.
Well, I mean, like, there's random, like, weird names and stuff that come up. The Book of Cagliostro. Dormammu, Agamotto. But anyway, there's we also have, like, we see that he learns, like, throughout training, there's a lot of different ways to use this magically different kind of spells. And then later on, when Kaecilius comes and they have this whole fight, there's, like, a whole bunch of stuff we're introduced to in that moment too, right? So
for sure. Hold on 2 seconds here.
Sure.
What? Yeah? No. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so.
Sorry, I thought you were saying, okay, we're gonna switch, so I thought you were pausing.
No, we just go Act 1, Act 2, Act 2.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay. Here we go. So
Act 2, Act 2.
Yes, we got a scene here. I will play Kaecilius. You play Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Okay. How long have you been at Camartage, Mr.
Doctor.
Mr. Doctor?
It's strange.
Maybe. Who am I to judge?
That's such a funny interaction.
I know. I really like Kaecilius. Like, he stays his way the whole time.
Yeah.
So that little, like, interchange there, like, it's just two funny people seeing each other. I love it.
At first I thought, wait, is he joking? And then
Yeah,
like,
I know.
he's serious.
It's a really funny exchange, and I don't think I got it the first time. I think it, like, took me a bit to understand what just happened there.
Okay.
Isn't it funny that also happens to Doctor Strange when he talks to Spider-Man later on too? When he's just like, when he's like Doctor Strange, and then like Peter's like, oh, we're using our made-up names. Oh, okay. Well,
Oh yeah.
Nobody understands that's his real name.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, we get Strange going to the library for the first time. He meets Wong.
Yes.
This is a really good scene. I love him going to the library. I love him just learning. I love watching montages of him learning. I don't know why, but it's fun to watch. So I love the idea of, like, there's unlimited knowledge here, and he's the kind of guy who's just going to go and read it all.
Just
and
soak
just get really
up
smart.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like him. There's a little montage of him failing at creating spells and just not doing all that great here in Camartage at the beginning. I like him, with the sling ring, and he's failing to make the magic, and I like that little scene where it's sparking and it's not really working, but it's like trying to spark in.
I would have been so ecstatic if I were him.
Oh,
Just
I
the
know.
fact
He's
that
like-
I
he's
can make a
almost getting there.
spark, like, geez, that's so cool.
It's a really good lesson too, where she's trying to tell him it's all about the mind games. I love that moment where he's just like, I can't do it, it's my hands don't work, and then she's like, that's not it. He's like, no, it is it. And then she just like calls out that one guy. She's like, you do it, and he doesn't have a hand.
Let me introduce you to a friend called Everest, and then
well, first she shows him the guy that doesn't have a hand, and he can do it.
That's right.
And that's when he's kind of like, oh, what the heck, like.
Yeah.
Then you're right, the Everest scene. That's a great moment where he's just like, is this Everest?
Which is okay. Like, I guess in terms of like realism, I think if you're that, like, he looked pretty high in Everest, so you shouldn't be able to breathe, right?
Yeah, I thought too. I would have figured he would die. I mean, she did mention that he has only got like 2 minutes to live.
Yeah, but I thought that was because of the cold temperatures, not because of the
that's true.
Because of the breathing.
Might
aspect.
be a mix of both, though, cold temperatures and oxygen. But it's like kind of a weird science experiment. Nobody's ever been able to have a portal so that you go from a really intense climate, regular climate, to a really intense climate in like a matter of a second. So I don't really know. I don't know the science behind that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's how this movie works. It doesn't have to
True.
rely on things
Exactly.
like
He is quite high on Everest, though. So.
that. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
But I did wonder that when it's happening. It's almost as if he just suddenly went to space for a second. You're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. She pretty much could have just done that.
Maybe.
Right? Yeah.
So then after this Everest test, we have that funny moment where Mordo's like, maybe I shouldn't. She's like, no. He's just like, oh, but he's gonna die. No.
And
then
he's like,
eventually
oh, not again. Like, when he finds out,
He's always just so concerned, so worried. I find Mordo very emotional, which is probably why you and I both didn't like him all that much in this film.
Yeah.
I just find him very overly emotional. It's very annoying. He's very needy.
Yeah, you're right. It is overly emotional. I didn't think about that, but I do like. I noted throughout the movie there are these times where he just gets kind of like oddly jealous, I guess. Which kind of like it's weird because like he seems like he's supposed to be kind of like transcended past all of that. You know, that he's kind of accepted where his life has taken him, being at Kamartaj and being able to use the skills that he has and use these relics and use magic and stuff, and yet he still feels these bouts of like just way too much emotion, especially compared to everybody else that's there. You know,
right?
Like I find that nobody else, like even Kaecilius, he doesn't seem like an emotional kind of character.
That's why
he was just pretty convicted with like what he thought was right and wrong, but it wasn't out of emotion. It was almost just like belief.
It was out of his logic. He had a logic that went one path, and Strange has logic that almost took him down the same path, but he took a left instead of a right.
Yeah, that's strange.
So after the Ever scene that you were mentioning this earlier, he gets his hair cut and he does like the whole shaving of the face and creating the Tony Stark beard, but the Doctor Strange beard instead.
Enter Tony.
Yeah. I do like that. He looks a lot like Doctor Strange. Like if you look at character concept art of like the comics and all that, they really casted him well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Then we get a montage of just a bunch of great things here, where he's reading more from Wong. He's getting more of the books from Wong. He's reading at night now while he's asleep. He's reading in his astral form, which is just I love that touch.
Awesome. I love that too. That was a really cool. Like
Could you imagine
I don't know
if you could read while you were asleep?
Oh boy, I wish.
Yeah, me too.
Oh man, like I would have gone through the whole Richmond Library by now. But yeah, like it's I don't know if they drew that from the comics or anything, but I think that alone just shows because we find out later, I think a little bit later, that he has photographic memory.
Yeah,
so that's why
I
he's
like
able
how
to
they hide that from us for a while too. That was smart.
Yeah, that's right. We don't find out until maybe end of second act, I guess, or something.
Yeah. It's after the Eye of Agamotto.
Okay. Oh, yeah, right. So, but in the meantime, yeah, like him, he's in a way like this is how this is him in his element kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. He studied really well because of sure his photographic memory, but also because of his own methods. So he's kind of like, it's like habitual. This is what he does when he gets in the zone. Yeah. And this is what he's able to take this knowledge and then use that knowledge to gain more knowledge. It's a really cool idea.
Well, yeah, he's only ever going to learn more and more and more until he's just insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get this montage of him doing all these awesome things. We get him learning about relics. He fights Mordo, and Mordo has that weird relic whip thing that's also like a staff.
Mm-hmm.
He learns
also
that
the boots.
Yeah,
he's got like 2 relics.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about those boots.
I don't know if they're both his or he just happens to be like using them in the fight.
Yeah,
one. I think. Yeah.
The whole point of it is to introduce relics to us because it's going to be more of a thing later on, I believe. Yeah. And probably going to play a bigger role in the second movie as well.
Maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, so the relics are just another thing in this Harry Potter-esque kind of movie. And so he learns about that as well, and he starts just excelling. He's stealing books from the library, and he's pretty much just starting to feel like he can do anything. Even the Ancient One shows him that he can go into the Mirror Realm and practice more deadlier spells in the Mirror Realm, and he learns about it there because he's starting to advance quicker than everybody else. And this is something that the Ancient One's not surprised about. She just is preparing for this kind of stuff with him.
And something about, I don't know if I'm picturing it incorrectly, but something about like the interactions that he has with the Ancient One when he's in the mirror dimension. It kind of reminds me of Morpheus teaching Neo.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. This movie has crazy Matrix vibes for me. Many times. But yeah, when he's just like, this is a program. Like there's so much of that in this, like
there's a lot of it. But I guess it's okay to draw from like that kind of stuff where like I mean it makes sense, like the relevance. So.
It's definitely a good like nostalgic thing, like even when he's fighting Mordo, there's a little bit of like a Morpheus and Neo fighting there. It just feels a little bit like it, and I think it's probably just because of it's like almost like American culture mixed with that Hong Kong kind of like fighting martial arts kind of thing. It's a little bit of like both blended, which is probably why it feels like that.
Okay,
but it's good. I don't know, I like it. It's fun. More of that.
It is fun. I like how when Mordo is actually talking about the relics, and then he talks about the staff, and then he talks about the boots, and he does this little like heel click kind of thing. Yeah. This is like a little cute kind of movement, and like and then boots, by the way.
After all that, we got Strange breaking into the library to go read some of the books. He goes and looks at where Kaecilius had stolen the pages of this ancient book from the Ancient One.
Yeah.
And he notices the stolen pages, and he also looks over while he's eating an apple, and he sees the Eye of Agamotto, his little chain amulet.
Yeah.
So he decides to put it on, try a few spells here or there. He's able to turn back time. He's able to make this apple full, and then closed and full. Does that mean it would be infinite food? Or does that just not work? Because I feel like food is also a natural law, so I don't know.
Well, I don't know how it works, and they didn't go into a lot of how
It'd
it
be
works.
way too confusing, I think, if you did. Time is very confusing.
Exactly. I think it'd be really convoluted. I think that's why they didn't show the apple going past like rotten. If they showed it completely disappeared, then it'd be like, okay, so now it comes back as if out of nowhere.
They also didn't go too far before. Like, does it go back onto a tree or something, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like they have to just
things.
show kind of like a brief range enough to make to make sense for the movie.
But it was enough, definitely, to understand what it does, and it was very interesting. I remember being so enticed by that, right? So it's that's very fun.
Yeah.
And then he uses it in such an interesting way right after that to bring the page back into the book. It's so cool. Like, I don't know, you have to be really smart to think about something like that. But he just looks at the ripped page from Kaecilius, brings the page back, and in a more scary moment, he ends up being able to read what Kaecilius read. And it's something that it took Kaecilius a long time to understand. There's a deleted scene, which is supposed to be the intro scene to the movie, where Kaecilius is telling his zealots that he finally has translated the pages so he can read it. So I think it's a really good moment because it shows that Doctor Strange reads it and he's able to translate it immediately.
Right.
But Kaecilius, it took him years. Now, Mordo does explain this because Mordo and Wong, they break in and find him right away. And then Mordo explains, like, how were you able to understand that? And that's, like you said, he brings up the photographic memory.
Yeah, this is it. Okay.
And it's just such a good moment there. I just really like that. That whole scene, just one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. It's just really, really cool.
So, okay, I guess that kind of answers it, but the whole, like, or maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but the apple, like, when he goes like forward in time, like we hit that point where like this is as forward and this is as backwards as we're gonna go,
right?
But then I was thinking that it shouldn't make sense for, maybe at the time I was thinking, or it doesn't make sense for the page to just come back because the page still exists somewhere, right?
True.
So like Kaecilius has it, so if he's turning back time and the page is coming back into the book, that should mean Kaecilius does not have the page anymore.
I know, it's confusing. I don't get it because like it shouldn't make a copy of it.
Yeah,
but maybe it does. I don't know. No, it shouldn't though, because if you think about the ending of the movie, like I don't know, that doesn't make sense. It's like copies are made of things.
Yeah, unless it was because like I couldn't tell if it became completely opaque, completely opaque because it still looked like it was slightly translucent.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if maybe it was just like an image of what was supposed to be there and never actually came back. But I would have to go back and take a look or dig a bit. But anyway,
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm
not sure. Yeah, but that's a really good point. I never thought about that.
Well, now you have.
Now I have. After this scene, we get a brief little mention of the 3 different sanctums. There's a New York sanctum, a China sanctum, and a London sanctum. Hong Kong, yes, and a London sanctum.
Yeah.
And during this moment, I don't exactly remember how this played out, but he's being told this in that kind of middle center where all 3 sanctums meet. And I don't remember how it works, but like out of nowhere, the London one just like opens up. They see Kaecilius, and then it blows up, and everybody gets launched backwards. Because I think at the moment Doctor Strange says he wasn't here to do any kind of protecting of Earth. He just wanted to heal his hands. But then in the middle of it, he's kind of thrown into it really quickly when the London sanctum falls.
Wait, so sorry, you're trying to figure out which part?
The scene where he's arguing with Mordo and Wong because he's saying, like, I'm not here to protect anything. I'm just here to heal my hands. While they're explaining the sanctums and why it was so dangerous for him to be working with time. And then something happens from that moment to London falling, the London sanctum. I think the doors just open and Kaecilius is there in the London sanctum, and then an explosion happens from a magical spell, and then that takes out the London sanctum. I think that's what happens. Do you remember?
Are they not in? Wait, isn't this New York?
They're not in New York yet. They're in the middle center spot.
Oh, so okay, Kaecilius does something and then sends, and then Strange all of a sudden ends up in New York.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're in the center spot where all 3 sanctums are around them. Yes, I'm just watching right now just to double check. But yeah, no, what I was explaining is what happened. So they're talking about the Dark Realm. They're talking about Dormammu and Kaecilius, and the repercussions to what Kaecilius wants to do.
Yeah.
After that, the London door is open, and then
Oh, I see what you mean. Right.
Kaecilius is in. Then so Strange gets knocked into the New York Sanctum, but the London Sanctum falls at that moment.
Oh, okay. It's right. Okay,
Yeah.
I think I didn't get that part. I see. Okay, gotcha.
And then we get into the New York Sanctum battle, which is kind of like the airport scene in Civil War. This is like a big battle sequence in the movie. It's one of the bigger ones, actually, I'd say. It's very, very cool. It starts with kind of Strange kind of wondering where he is, walking around this whole New York Sanctum, doesn't know what's going on, to him noticing that there is, for one, that he's in New York.
Yep.
He notices that. He then notices, that there's another guy in this place who seems to be the defender of the Sanctum, as it is.
Yeah, the master.
Yeah, the master there. And then he also notices that Kaecilius' zealots are coming in and fighting them. And it gets into a nice, cool fight scene there in the Sanctum.
And he went actually before that he sees all the relics. Like he goes upstairs.
Oh, true.
He
You're
notices,
right. Yeah.
all sorts of relics, and he passes by the cloak.
The cloak, you're right. And the doors that go into alternate kind of places, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and then again, the cool effects in this movie, they're very, like you mentioned earlier, Inception-like, where all the architecture just kind of morphs. I just love the morphing of the architecture. It looks so fluid and natural. It's very cool.
Yeah, I feel like it must have been so difficult to make all that, because you have to, like, I guess conceptually, when I think about, well, at least what we did at BCIT, but even still, like, I did take some, like, 3D animated kind of stuff, like, courses before, so just with my minimal knowledge, it just seems like it would be so difficult to think of, like, this, like, having one aspect of a building just appearing from within another part of a building.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when, like, conceptually, I would think, like, okay, there's a beginning and an end. But no, with this, it's not really. There's a beginning and then another beginning and another beginning and another beginning sort of thing.
Yeah, it just keeps going. It loops itself almost.
Yeah, kind of. It's so weird to think about. And yeah. Like, I would be so curious to see, like, what the wireframes look like behind it all. Yeah. And, like, how it must be so messy looking or something. It must be, like, such a heavy load. But anyway.
I don't know, but it definitely, it's effective. It looks really cool.
And then also the cinematography works, like, really, really well, because I think as they're following some of the characters that end up, they're able to shift where their gravity is. Like, Kaecilius ends up, when they're walking down the hall, he shifts so that he's now standing on, like, what would be the ceiling for us.
True.
And then his zealots end up, like, on the side walls.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they're running, like, the camera will slowly kind of pan and turn and follow their gravity.
Yeah.
And it like throws off the audience just as much as it would throw off, like, Strange being in that moment, like, what is happening sort of thing, and having to adapt and try to figure out, like, how can I keep up with this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's really a moment, I'm watching the hallway scene here where Kaecilius extends the hallway, then he launches onto the ceiling, his zealots launch onto the side walls, and they all start running at Doctor Strange. Like, it's so much. It's just so much.
Yeah.
Then after he shifts the gravity, Strange is able to use this to his effect to pull the zealots into the desert area just behind him at the end of the hall. It's really, really crazy. It effectively makes Strange look smart. It also makes Kaecilius look really dangerous. It's really cool.
Well, yeah, and because at this point it's not like Strange has been really, really trained in, like, the physical aspect of everything there. Like, he's definitely not a good fighter. He just happens to kind of get by. And, like, when he draws his own weapon, he brings out, like, a whip, which kind of, like, it works out for a little bit, and then he tries to pull out, like, 2 shields, but one kind of flickers.
Oh, yeah, the
right?
failed shield.
Like, exactly. So he's definitely not at some sort of, like, peak performance, and he can sort of get by, and it's more so with his, I guess in a way, it's brain. Like, he doesn't use. There aren't too many parts of these scenes where it's like, oh, that was a really smart thing to do, but he just happens to be. Yeah, like, he has enough ingenuity to kind of get by and figure out, like, okay, how can I keep myself alive, or what can I do about this person who looks like they're stuck in the desert? Okay, close them off, kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah. I do love that, though, locking them into a different zone in the desert. I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I also like the moment where he grabs relics. So he grabs the big, I don't know what it is, like a vase kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks like it's like a giant trophy or something.
Or some chalice or something. I don't really
chalice,
know.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's glowing, and then I just love how Kaecilius is like, you don't know how to use that, do you?
Yeah, it just like, chucks it at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, for some reason, I think I thought this in the theater when I watched it, and I did think this now, recently when I watched it again. I feel like when he held that relic, that it was meant to be some sort of toilet I don't know why, but it just looks like it's supposed to be a toilet.
I see it as a gun. I don't know why, but I feel like he holds it up and it shoots out a light or something.
Oh, I see, kind of like a bazooka.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Okay, that
I don't know. How is one supposed to use it? You could be more right than I am on that.
I mean, it could be, yeah, like what if like you use it as a toilet, it absorbs it, and you can like dish it out as like higher energy. I don't know. That's how these things work in comics, right?
He kicks Kaecilius into a tower which is holding the cloak, and then as that moment happens, the cloak ends up starting to fight Kaecilius with him.
Yeah.
And this is really cool. You get that moment where Kaecilius throws him off of the balcony and the cloak catches him and carries him up, and you get that awesome Doctor Strange shot with the cloak and the Sanctum kind of logo in the background.
Yeah, he's levitating now.
Oh,
yeah.
That's just really cool. I love that. Because again, he looks so much like Doctor Strange. It's just really well done.
And so again, I like with Mads Mikkelsen in this role, I like well actually no, sorry, this is more about the character himself, that he's not an emotional character, because as the cloak is stopping him from killing him twice, he doesn't think like, oh crap, like what the heck is going on. He just like continues, okay, like plan C, like
exactly.
move on, move forward.
Yeah, he's logicking further through it. Yeah,
exactly. Like I have something to do. I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna bicker about like why things are happening in the meantime to slow me down. Just gonna figure out the way to do it. So,
I love even to that extent too. When the cloak shows Strange, there's this other thing he can throw on him. It's kind of like whatever it is. He throws that weird little brace on him, and the brace starts locking into him, and he starts like moving with the brace. He becomes
a little terracotta warrior.
Exactly.
So like when I was in Chinese dance, we did a terracotta warrior dance, so we start off kind of pretending to be as if we are like the clay models, and then we slowly break out and become like a little bit more and more human. But for him, it was kind of like the reverse.
Yeah, he's slowly becoming more terracotta.
Yeah, but it looked really funny. It was so well done too.
Yeah,
just
it was
like,
well done.
His like really sharp movements, and they're so like, they just look so odd. But it makes sense because like this is what the brace is trying to do to you. Like you can't. Like, it's not trying to make you comfortable. You're completely uncomfortable in this really awkward position.
For sure. I can't tell how much is, like, CGI and how much is, like, him on set doing, like you said, like, almost, like, motions, and then they're, like, CGIing stuff with it. I don't know. It also could be a body double with a CGI face replacement. I don't know. True. But it's really well done. It looks really cool. I like it. Yeah, I also like that he talks to Strange. You know, Strange lets him talk here, and this is where he starts to tell Strange.
Oh, yeah, he's talking while his mouth is muffled.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Expecting Strange to understand what he's saying.
But just like you said, he's resilient. He just keeps going, you know? And now he knows he can't fight, but he's using his words to try to attack Strange, to try to get into Strange's head. And it's effective. He starts talking about the Ancient One and how she pulls magic from the dark dimension.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
dark
can't remember it all. Yeah, and he's right. She does pull her magic from the dark dimension. This is something that Strange I feel like already was wondering and is already curious about. And now that he's hearing it from Kaecilius, it's confirmed it in his mind, I think.
Yeah. And actually, I should probably take this back, but it's not that he's completely emotional. He does show some emotion at this point because he has tears running down his face.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe this is... I suspect it's kind of like what... like this similar pain that Mordo was feeling when he felt betrayed, like finding out that this whole time this is what the Ancient One was actually doing, but I didn't know, and he kind of put his whole life into the Ancient One's training and Ancient One's care, or just ways of life. Yeah. And so I guess this is supposed to represent what happens to those people who take up this life and then all of a sudden find out that something has gone wrong or something shatters it, and they actually do show emotion. But Mordo to me is still kind of like, that's too much.
Yeah. There's a quick cool moment there when Kaecilius tells him, like, what did you even come to the Sanctum, or what did you come to this whole thing for? Like, what were you trying to learn? Was it for enlightenment? And it shows Doctor Strange's fist, and he's clenching his fist. Yeah. And then you slowly see the fist release, and you realize that he couldn't really clench his fist all that great before. Yeah. And he's doing it now, but he was doing it because he was so angry about what this guy was saying. But he wasn't even thinking about the fact that he was using his fist that way. And as he lets go, you see the shake kind of come back in. Yeah. And you realize that, he's overcoming this whole thing with his hands through his mental game. And none of it is happening with his power. So it's very, very interesting, but he didn't even realize it. Also, while this happens, he gets completely distracted, and then Zealot guy throws the spear, and it hits him in the chest, and he falls down. And this is just a way to pretty much get Doctor Strange back into the New York hospital. So he uses this to get his sling ring and head back to the hospital after his cloak totally just takes this guy out and just like knocks him on the ground a bunch.
Yeah.
It's a crazy scene where the cloak just grabs the guy's face and just keeps clanging it on the
Just
ground.
bashing it over and over and over again.
It doesn't seem like super effective, but I guess like over time it just works. Like
yeah, I guess to an extent. It's funny because like I thought like, oh, is this like the cloak is gonna do what it needs to protect. I assume it's doing what it needs to do to protect Strange. So I thought that it was gonna try to kill the guy, but I guess as long as he was subdued.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, this is going to lead into the scene that goes back to the hospital. Yep. So I like how, like, so Rachel McAdams' character Christine.
Yep.
Yeah. So I like how Christine is almost sort of like, not really a love interest, but like a semi love interest.
Very Pepper Potts, hey?
Kinda, like, because she's not in it a lot. She's just there kind of like as kind of like the grounded
friend.
Well, the grounded friend, the grounded support from his non-spiritual side, like the non-camartage life that he has. So he, and I like that they don't really build a lot of like their love, because then I think that makes like it makes for like a completely different movie and a completely different character for him. You know what I mean? Like that, because then that means like he's somebody who struggles not only to like figure himself out, but he also has like a struggle for love that he doesn't understand, and
for sure
kind of thing. So I like that they kind of just keep the focus on what he just needs to do for himself, as opposed to what he needs to do for himself for the sake of a relationship.
That's a good point. And it's not like she's like in trouble by the end of the film and he's trying to rescue her, rescue a bunch of stuff, you know, like you're right, she is just there as support throughout the film. But I do like the romance that builds throughout it with them. But you're right, maybe it's like they're leaving it for another film, or it's going to just be something that he can never have just because of his character and who he is.
Potentially, yeah.
You know?
I think that, and again, this would also, like, if they did happen to kind of show that love interest kind of building throughout the movie, then again, this would be sort of, at least the way that this movie ended, that he would have had to sacrifice his relationship with her in order to become this person who is now defending the Sanctum, right? So that would have been kind of like also cliche. So yeah, I just another reason for, at least I find this another way to support like why I like that he is separated from like any kind of like love story arcs. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I find this next scene really trippy, and on paper it probably seemed crazy to these people when they started doing it, and then it makes more sense on screen, I think. But it's kind of an interesting concept where for him to come in, he pretty much passes out on the table, and Christine starts operating on him. While he goes into his astral form to help her with the operation.
Yeah.
And he comes into the real realm to then show her where the surgery should happen, all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, the other guy in New York, or in the New York Sanctum, then goes into his astral form, heads through the wormhole thing, comes into the hospital, and fights the astral form of Doctor Strange while she's operating on his dead or dying body, I guess. And their battle is so intense; it's starting to affect things in the real world. It's like, it's so interesting. Like,
it's very interesting.
It's hard to like keep track of, but it's also like it's fun to watch, but it's very weird at the same time. I don't know. It's I don't know totally how to feel about it, but I know we wouldn't see this anywhere else. You know, it's just so unique to Doctor Strange.
Well, so what kind of confuses me about this is that, to me, it seems like, okay, so when he actually showed up, like made himself visible to Christine, it looks like he comes out of the mirror dimension, right? Like there's a whole bunch of like shards around there. So that means, like, if you're out of the mirror dimension, that you can affect what's happening in the real world. But if you're in the mirror dimension, you shouldn't be able to. So doesn't that mean every time that they hit something and like the tray jiggles or the vending machine moves or something, shouldn't that not happen because that's happening in the mirror dimension?
I don't know.
So I don't know if I've missed something.
I don't know if that actually is the mirror dimension, though. That might just be him breaking from the astral plane into like reality. I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe that's why. Maybe it's not actually mirror dimension.
It's not mentioned though, so it's hard to know. It's also I don't know how it works where she shocks him, his physical body, and that affects his astral body. Yeah. It makes me wonder about other things. If he's cold, you know, does that make his astral body cold? You know, I don't understand like how those two are connected.
Well, they did say no. Oh no, sorry, no. This is because in the mirror dimension, what happens to you in that also happens to you in the real world, right? Because I think they were talking about that later when Mordo and Strange were running away from the Zealots and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't know if maybe we missed something, or maybe they explained it. I don't know, but something just seems a little bit like, we need to fill in the blanks.
Right.
In a few spots, yeah.
But I mean, it's not horrible. I do like the ingenuity where Christine is helping him do this battle. I think it's kind of fun that like her operating on him ends up helping him in a battle. I also like that the thing that brings them right back to reconnecting is the thing that they used to do together anyways, which was work together on surgery. It's also really
kind of like another Matrix moment where he puts his hand into his own chest.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also just fun to watch these two reconnect and then like instantly kind of had that friendship bonding again. And I just like it. I don't know. I like these two characters. I really like the scene afterwards where they're kind of reconciling, and it ends up getting really emotional to the point where they almost kiss. She walks off because she gets called to do something, and he's actually crying, and it's very interesting to note that he's hit so emotionally by this.
Okay, so also, sorry, I want to go back to the beginning of this, but he shows up out of nowhere. He tells somebody he needs to look for Dr.
Christine, where is
Christine or whoever. Yeah,
she's in the nursery.
And you can tell he's bleeding quite a bit, and so I feel like he should have drawn enough attention that even though he said, I need you to be the only one in the room with me to like operate on me and like nobody else, I feel like other people would have
it later shows
and
Nick getting food from a vending machine. Like, why isn't Nick running to wherever this ward is of this bleeding man?
Like there should have been like some more like chaos happening because a bleeding man all
where
of a sudden
are the concerned nurses?
It's very odd. Anyway, sorry, small things.
No, that totally makes sense. Anyways, he gets emotional from this whole thing. I like the little moment where the cloak starts to like take the tears away from him. He's like, stop it. I like because the cloak, it just shows like a personal bond between the cloak and him.
And the cloak has a personality too.
Yeah, and it reminds me of Aladdin and the carpet. It's very like similar.
Yeah, you're right.
So anyways, Strange returns back to the New York Sanctum. I like the moment when he leaves the sling ring teleportation device. Then she kind of like turns around. She's kind of like doesn't know what's going on. Then the mop falls behind her. She jumps.
Oh yeah.
I think that's very human, very fun.
Yeah.
And he heads back to the New York Sanctum and he talks to Mordo and the Ancient One. Now this is a very interesting moment where he pretty much calls out the Ancient One for using the Dark Dimension. She tells him not to do this, but he does it anyways. And from that moment on, she pretty much knows the path. I feel like at this moment, she knows she's going to die. I think at this moment, she already knows like this is the last path for her, and she can't see past this moment. And I think that's already where it hits her. We're supposed to think that she's worried about what he's going to say, but I think she already knows what he's going to say, and she's worried about going down this path. We also get more emotional Mordo. He's like, no, it couldn't be. No.
Immortal.
He's just like overacting like crazy. Like, you're taking crazy pills, Doctor Strange. It could never happen that way. No.
I mean, I don't know if he's overacting, but I think it's just like the character, the way that he's meant to be portrayed.
The way he's written, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the actor's fault, really. I actually don't even know if it's the writing. It just, for some reason, doesn't flow well in this script. It doesn't flow well with the other characters. He just seems a little out of place.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Can it be? No. Like, he almost seems like he's from Thor or something. Like, it's very strange.
Yeah. I think, okay, so we're, like, all these people are supposed to be there based on the, like, present day, right? So I also kind of find it weird where if we have these people that are showing up there who happen to have, like, such a strange
way of
tongue?
talking.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's
sure.
not, it actually doesn't sound modern.
Well, Doctor Strange sounds modern. He sounds like a regular guy, which we connect with. Even the Ancient One talks to him like a modern person when she says, like, oh, it's just tea with a bit of honey. Like, the way she talks is very normal, right? But Mordo sounds like Shakespearean almost. It's very weird.
A little bit. I don't know why. Maybe we're just too picky. But anyway, so we get up to pretty much the next scene where all of a sudden I think Kaecilius comes back and attacks, right? So
they go into the mirror realm.
So they go into the mirror dimension again, and so again we have some more Inception-like kind of stuff, and I just find it's funny when you have these characters that are just running down the street.
Yeah,
like we had this in the beginning too, where it was Kaecilius and like 10 of his henchmen or zealots, and they're just like. They have this like a very firm run, you know, like the T-1000 from Terminator 2.
Yeah,
it's like when they're chasing the truck, like it's just like a very non-emotional run.
Or like the Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Oh, it's so straight. It's so rigid. So so it's them running down the street, and we have another scene of that again. But there's one thing. Oh, I thought that this was so cool. So as it's just the three of them, I think. So it's Kaecilius and two henchmen, or I keep calling them henchmen, two zealots. They're running in the middle of the street, and then as cars are coming towards them, he doesn't like he just shifts like the whole dimension.
I know. It's
on
like he
both
makes
sides.
a fractured dimension to the side of it. They just go down the other pass.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's so cool. It's such a small thing to even have to put in, but I find like that's such a cool idea. Like it really adds a lot of depth to what they can do with like to the dimension.
Yeah.
Right. Like we see that they can like shift and bend, and like things can just go like be put into themselves and rotate in kind of like strange ways. But those are like we see things on like very 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 large scales. So we don't see a lot of small scale stuff. I don't think in terms of altering reality, but something like that, just like those small shifts are like, ooh, those are really cool nuances that I like.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like all the effects in this scene. I think it's really well done. I like from the subtleties to like cars, when they like morph around. You like zoom, like morphing up and down around. Kaecilius like turning the whole city on its side and them falling when they hit the bus and they see Stan Lee.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. He's reading the Doors of Perception or something like that.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
I don't know if that's a real book, but I assume that's meant to be kind of like a.
I feel like it's probably a subtitle to one of the comics, maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe it is.
But yeah, they do crazy things. Like they're running up a building. Kaecilius jumps on the building. It morphs and it like starts waving like surf and stuff. It's just crazy. He splits the building and it spins. Like so much is going on, and the city just caves in on itself. Pretty much, it's just nuts.
Yeah,
you're right. It looks a lot like Inception, but it's also just so trippy. Like it's so much more trippy than Inception.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I just looked it up. Somebody has like a quick answer. So he's reading The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, an essay detailing Huxley's experiences with the hallucinogenic drug mescaline or something.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. I mean, I guess it has to do with the drug aspect and the fact that there's this, like, we're in like a really trippy scene, I guess.
Yeah, it gets really, really trippy. I really like when the Ancient One starts fighting. And she comes in and then starts helping them fight with all these zealots, which, by the way, like a fight scene based on this kind of architecture is already bizarre. Like, they're running around fighting each other like crazy. He's running down a balcony, and Kaecilius is running under the balcony. Like, just really bizarre stuff. Mm-hmm. You have to watch this sequence like over and over and over again to actually understand what's even happening.
It's like you know that painting where it's kind of like
the stairways are going all the
stairways that look like they don't make sense. They shouldn't be coming from where they are. It's like that, but on steroids.
Sure. Yeah,
and animated. Yeah.
But when the Ancient One comes in, she starts morphing it to make more sense, and she makes a little arena for them. I love how the arena gets like created, that like disc arena, and then it's got like architecture from New York, like building the arena. It's just crazy.
Kind of like it's like kaleidoscope kind of effect.
Yeah, like it's pretty too. Like it looks nice. Like it's
I wonder if
it almost looks like a church or something because like a mural is done on it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I almost kind of feel like each time we see I just saw the scene. Okay, so yeah, each time we see that they are altering what's happening in reality. So like whatever Kaecilius does to alter it, it's kind of like very it's very like chaotic and just things are kind of like all over the place, not very not chaos. Structurally sound kind of thing. It's sure chaos. Like I don't think he's a very chaotic person, but it's very juxtaposed from the way that the Ancient One puts things together because hers is so fluid. Yeah. And
order.
And it looks like everything is very there's order. It's organized, and it almost looks like everything is kind of done with intent. Like every single step is done with intent.
For sure.
Anyway, so when I was like, I saw the scene where Kaecilius kind of like pounds the ground and sends this like shock wave through the ground towards
I know
and she kind of just like, absorbs it and then like pushes it back like water. I'm like, that's such a cool effect.
It reminds me of dance actually, like a dance move, right, where you have like
I find it
like doing that wave kind of motion or something. It's very interesting.
I agree. It looks very dancey, very like very kind of feeling present with how like the music or like the waves are making you feel and kind of going with it, like you're not really resisting it, you're absorbing it and then kind of going with it, right? It's it's so cool.
Interesting, like cool pulse effect. I love that scene. I think it's very cool. The fight scene's cool. I like how Kaecilius uses one of his zealots to then slice
sacrifice
through
him.
them, yeah, and then hit the ancient one, and it's effective. It works.
Mm-hmm.
She gets hit, and then he throws her through the sling ring portal, and she just like falls to her death. Pretty much, it's pretty intense.
Yeah. Oh, it crashes through that thing just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think I was really shocked by that.
Yeah,
I think
you just watch a body just fall pretty much like.
Yeah, it's I think because it's like it's so well. Okay, she's in yellow, so she's obviously very colorful, and it's very contrasting with everything else. That's kind of really like that scene is very gray, right? Not just because of the buildings, but I think like the sky is gray and the people nearby, like nobody's really colorful. So I feel like seeing that, like when that body just hits that glass and then hits the ground right after, it's like it's so impactful. It's it in a way kind of reminds me of when Rhodey fell back in Civil War. Except, yeah. But this one was kind of like played up a little bit more because that one was just like it's that like really like dull kind of not dull, but it was like a thick thud, you know, because he's in his suit and he just like lands and there's no like bounce, there's no like recoil. There's no recoil.
Right.
But in this one, like she hits the glass. There's all that like all the shattered shards are just surrounding her body that hits the ground, and there's like a bit of like a bounce, right? Like what a body normally does.
Yeah.
So I find like it's just so it looks like so realistic to me that it was like, oh wow, like I feel like I could have like really felt that in the theater.
Yeah, it's brutal, but then they end up like cutting it immediately to like a comedic moment where then Doctor Strange is like wheeling her into the thing, and he's like, Christine! She's like, are you kidding me? Camartage? Yeah. But I do like that. I like that, again, Christine is like his, almost like the night nurse or whatever in the Defenders. Christine is like his nurse
like
in
Alfred.
the hospital. Yeah. And he's bringing in just this random woman in a yellow thing, and she's trying to operate on her. I love the subtlety where he gives Nick the scalpel, and he's like, you have to perform the surgery. Like, he's giving the control to Nick. Obviously, he's learned now as time has gone on. There's this arc. And we get
like kind of relinquishing the control. Like, it's not about me controlling stuff, and like I'm not the only one who is capable. Like, other people can do stuff too, right? Yeah.
And then we get like one of my favorite scenes too, is just like where he leaves into his astral form and goes and chases her down because he knows that she's going to be going off to go look at something else. Like he knows that she left into her astral form at least, so he's leaving to go find her. And we get just the dialogue they have here out when they're looking out at the snow is just so amazing. Although I will say, I didn't understand what she meant when she says your body hasn't hit the ground yet. I didn't know what she meant by that, and I thought she was doing like a riddle or something. I didn't realize she meant because when he left his astral body, his body's about to fall and hit the ground. I didn't get that's what she meant. So now I understand that she's slowing down like about 2 seconds worth of time.
Yeah.
To look at the snow, as she's saying, to look at the snowfall. And it's just amazing. It's a really well done scene where she's pretty much saying like she has flaws, everyone has flaws. He's about to make a decision where he's going to make a flaw as well, but she has to eventually let go because of time. Like, and that's the beauty of time, is that it's fleeting. So, it's really, really interesting stuff. There's this one camera move where it's behind them and it's showing Tilda Swinton talking, and the camera swivels around and shows Doctor Strange, and she's pretty much telling him that the dude was using magic to walk, and like he's using the magic to be able to create the ability for him to walk. So it's not that he can actually walk, it's that he's using his magic in tandem with him. And that's where Strange is fully realizing this whole effect that he'll never be able to use his hands the way he thought he could. He'll have to be able to come to terms with the fact that he's using magic to do that for him. And
I see what you mean. Yeah.
And it also gives him the control, I think. So as the camera swivels around, it's almost like saying the Ancient One is now giving him the last bit of her knowledge, and he's now going to be the most... He's pretty much, in a weird way, the Ancient One now. He's like the new one with all the knowledge for everyone. So I think all the power goes to him after the camera swivels in that moment. It's very cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, he's left there... Yeah, like that moment where she grabs his hand a little bit as she's kind of like...
That's so touching. I love that.
It is very touching, which is... It's interesting because, like, I don't know, like, I wouldn't have expected, like, that kind of interaction from her, because she's always seemed... Like, I mean, aside from Kaecilius, like, she obviously has some sort of regret and, like, emotion because of that, but, like, we don't really see her having a lot of emotion, per se, otherwise, throughout, like, the rest of the movie. So, when she... It's almost like she kind of, like, lets herself just, like, be vulnerable, I guess, in a different kind of way, or just lets her I guess like she's coming to terms with something too, right? At the same time while Strange is, and so maybe like that's, like I guess it kind of goes in tandem with like her grabbing his hand and feeling something kind of like for one last time. Yeah, and then I
love that line though. Like, you would think after all this time I'd be ready. That's a great line. Like, and then
and it's true. Like, you just because you kind of go through something over and over again doesn't mean you're going to be ready for what happens next. For sure. I guess, right? Yeah. So, it's funny that like this movie. I'm sure I probably should have paid attention. I think I did notice it throughout the movie that it does, like, although this movie is about like magic, and I'm kind of going beyond like what life is about, but I find there are a lot of lines that are actually about like just realism and like things that would normally, like phrases that would normally just ground you, like for thinking like, oh yeah, like exactly, that's exactly how it is, sort of thing.
Well, that's good fantasy. If they can relate to your regular life, if they can hit you something that actually hits you relatively in something that's fantasy and totally made up, that's how you make good fantasy, right?
Yeah,
like you sympathize with Harry Potter because he lost his parents in the first chapter, and you instantly, it's something real and raw that you can relate to. But Harry Potter's a wizard; you can't relate to that,
Yeah, exactly.
So like you relate to that. You relate to the romance in Harry Potter because you can relate to romance, but you don't relate to him making spells. You just wish you could. But that's what makes good fantasy. That's the difference right there. And it's very good in this movie. You're right. They do a very good job of that with the lines, the dialogue, and the metaphors. I think it's just really interesting. But that's probably one of my favorite moments, maybe first or second favorite moment of the whole movie, is just that last scene there until she passes away.
And then, oh wait, did I? Oh, okay, I see. So your Act 3 is coming up just after.
I end it right after she dies because I feel like that's when he changes yet again.
Okay, where do I become? Oh, I think mine.
And I apologize. Okay. The scene where they almost have the kiss and all that is actually right after her death. That's where he's emotional. And his tears are happening. That's
right, and that's when the cloak, So actually, just about that scene, like, as she walks into, just before she washes her hands, she notices the cloak is just floating there. And she looks at it, kind of like, does it like an eye roll kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly, like whatever.
It's just really funny. I like the small, like, nuances about this movie. I think they're done really well, because, like, what this movie definitely has going for it is it does a lot of the big stuff really, really well. And so it's nice to see that they also have like these really small gestures that kind of just like these kind of fill in those cracks, right? And it's not just all about the big moments, but like just notice the small stuff too, because they're just as I guess influential, or they're just as important for communicating like what the heck is happening.
Right.
So I think I might have missed out on some notes here and there, but I think our Act 3 pretty much would have lined up either way. So,
okay,
yeah.
All right. Do you want to move into Act 3 then?
Sure. You're at Act 3 now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So Act 3, I just named "It's About Time."
Because it is, and mine is called "It's Not About You."
Ooh. Yeah. It's not about you.
It's not about you, Strange.
So here, I got some lines here. I will play Mordo, and you play Stephen Strange for a third time.
Okay. We did it.
Yes, we did. But also violating the natural law.
Look around you. It's over.
You think there will be no consequences, Strange? No price to pay? We broke our rules just like her. The bill comes due. Always. The bill, Strange.
The bill, think of the bill.
Mordo like can't sleep anymore. He's like so distraught.
Yeah.
But the bill comes due.
What did I write? I think when he said that, I think I wrote Lannister always pays his debts or something like that. It's really reminded me of that.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
My gosh. So that's actually pretty much where we start. Well, actually, we start with Wong. He's there with all his buddies in Hong Kong, and they're there to defend the Sanctum in Hong Kong. Yeah. It's the last one that Kaecilius has not fought yet, so they know that's where he's going next. But we get Strange and Mordo having a little like pep talk, and Mordo's pretty much just lamenting a bunch here, just like Kaecilius was her fault, getting all mad again. The beetle.
He's just it's weird. He's just standing in rubble, in solitude, like. Yeah. Go to your room or something. It's
Strange pretty much just goes like, all right, like, you know where he's going. I'm going there. we have to go, and then
Yeah.
Mordo just goes with them. Like
It's just such a total flip. Like, what?
yeah, it's funny. He's like just like being really annoying and then just goes with them. I feel like there was a missing line of dialogue or something. Like
I know, yeah, it is kind of weird. I don't know if it's like it's almost as if like he's just having this really emotional point, and it's like cut. Okay, stop being emotional. Just go do your thing now.
Because now you need to
it's
be in the
weird.
next scene.
Yeah.
But now we get them where they arrive in China, or sorry, Hong Kong. Sorry, I wrote China.
Yeah.
And they get to Hong Kong there, and they notice that Kaecilius has already killed Wong and destroyed the whole building, and the dark dimension is now taking over Hong Kong. This is such a crazy scene where
Oh man, yeah.
Strange immediately notices what's going on, thinks, "Oh my God, the only thing I can do is turn back time. If I could turn back time."
Time.
And
find a
they
way.
should have played that song while this was happening. This whole scene. If it was Guardians, that's totally what would happen.
Either that, or they would have played like Time After Time. Oh no, Time After Time would have been while he's actually making that bargain with.
Oh yeah.
Dormammu.
Time after time.
Yeah.
Anyways, Strange does this crazy thing where he starts turning back time, but as he's trying to do the spell, Kaecilius recognizes what he's gonna do, so now it's a threat, and Kaecilius just starts running at him. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and he's
it's
about
the T-1000 run again.
Exactly, and he's just about to stab him just before the spell happens. So Strange acted like to the second of how fast he had to be.
Yeah.
And as he starts turning back time and everything starts rebuilding itself, he then goes to Mordo and brings Mordo out of the spell. And the craziest thing is that as everything's turning back time, Kaecilius is able to break out of this time spell.
Somehow, yeah.
I don't get what's going on, but it's crazy.
I guess
to
because
watch.
it must be because he's pulled enough of like the energy from the dark dimension. I assume.
Yeah, I guess.
Something?
I wonder, does that mean he could think and feel and act while he was reversing in time or something?
I get.
Like, it's very weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it is really weird.
It's fun,
Can't
though.
really
Like, don't get
explain
me
it.
wrong. This whole scene is so fun. Like, I love watching, like, even the horrific things, like somebody who had, like, hit a car crash and died on the
Oh,
road,
it goes
and they reverse
reverse.
back into the car.
Yeah.
But then, like, I don't know who thinks of this stuff. How do you think of this? But, like, when they have a fight scene going on while things are reversing, and you hit somebody into a fish tank that's broken that then builds itself back up into a fish tank, and the person's stuck in there, like, that's so cool.
It is a really cool idea.
Oh.
And then Kaecilius gets stuck in the wall.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
but he's, like, still in there, and, like, he can't fully build because he's, like, stuck in the wall, I guess. And
Yeah.
Then, it's just genius. Like, it's crazy. Somebody was like, okay, we're going to do a fight scene, and we're also going to have time reversing during the fight scene. And then as they're writing it, they're going through the fight scene, suddenly they're like, wait, what if we pause time during this reversal fight scene?
Yeah.
It's like, okay. So
Let's add a seventh layer to this
yeah.
mess. Yeah.
So
yeah.
they break the stone at that moment, and time just freezes and pauses. I think this is after they get Wong back as well.
Yeah. So they uncover Wong, kind of towards the end of everything. Finally, like rewinding back to
Yep.
its like 0.0 part, I guess. I like his line when he comes out too. Like,
So what are you doing?
Like-
Breaking natural law?
well, don't stop now.
I love when he looks back on like where his dead body would have been. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Because you realize, like, oh, well, you just saved me, so let's keep going.
So good.
Like, I won't complain.
But they end up knocking out Doctor Strange. Kaecilius does at least, and when he falls, he hits the ground, and that's what stops the spell. When the spell stops, time just kind of pauses there, and it's just so crazy. Again, to pause time suddenly after you've been doing all of this manipulation, and everything's just stuck in frozen time, and now they're preparing to battle in a frozen time. Very small thing. It would have been kind of fun if it was in a short loop, like a GIF. If like it was just like sort of jerking and moving a little bit, you know. I think that would have been really,
it's
really
almost
cool.
like trying to keep going
Yeah,
forward.
yeah,
but
I
it
think that
just
would have been
can't.
really sweet. Although I
Yeah.
like the frozen time. I used to have like a movie idea when I was a kid where like it would have taken place during a frozen time period like this, and it was I love the concept of time, and I think it's really cool how they did this.
I can picture that happening in like in a creepy kind of movie where
It was a horror movie I was trying to write. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense because I feel like if in the middle of like the main people that are able to move, you see like the whole environment around them is kind of like shifting in kind of like weird, like awkward kind of ways. I feel like what does that remind me of? It kind of reminds me of did you watch Silent Hill, the movie?
Oh yeah.
So I think it's also in the video games, but there's a scene where they go like she's in this room and there are those like weird nurses, those like blind nurses.
Yep.
And I think they only see you when there's light, or like they kind of do these like weird twitches.
Yeah.
And so that's what I kind of picture. Like if everything in the environment is kind of shifting, it's like really unnatural movements, like those kind of like those witches.
It gets creepy quickly.
It would be really creepy. Yeah.
In this moment when time is frozen, Mordo's like, okay, we're gonna have to fight Kaecilius. Like, let's end this kind of thing. Yeah. And then, so then Strange decides to fly away.
He doesn't communicate. I'm just gonna do.
But he's got a plan. Like in my mind, he clearly has a plan. And then Kaecilius is like, see, like even Strange leaves or something like that. And Mordo for some reason believes that.
Believes it. Like
he looks back and just starts like almost bawling his eyes out. That Strange has left him.
Sad.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I just can't take him seriously. Yeah. Anyways, we have Strange going off into the dark dimension to go talk to Dormammu, and I've come to bargain.
It's like this scene just reminds me of like his whole zombie camartage.
Dormammu. I feel like his audition lines when he was learning to like not learning, but when he was practicing his American accent, this was the first line he was doing a lot of.
Dormammu. I feel like the audition was just this line actually.
Yeah, I've come to bargain.
Yeah, or it wasn't even like it was probably just okay. Say this line in 20 different ways.
Well, have you ever heard Benedict Cumberbatch try to say penguin? He goes penguin, and he like can't say penguin right.
Does he really?
Yeah.
What?
You can search it up on YouTube. It's a funny thing where it's like an interviewer and he like can't say the word penguin. So he did a documentary where he was narrating it and it was about penguins. Everyone realized that he like says penguin really awkwardly. So,
how is that the second result when I go to YouTube?
I know, it's a popular
Benedict,
video,
and it's what?
So, anyways, I feel like maybe Dormammu was also a hard one for him, so he really had to emphasize it, like Dormammu, like Shamu the whale.
I mean, I've come to bargain. It's also like it's also a weird word, Dormammu. Like it doesn't sound like a name. It sounds like it's meant to be like I don't know.
What if he emphasized it weirdly? Dormammu.
Dormammu.
Dormammu. I've come to bargain.
Dormammu?
I feel like he should do that as he was changing it up. He should like change the way he was saying it. You know? Like,
yeah, I mean, like, he might as well have fun with it, right? Like,
Dormammu,
I've come to bargain.
I like this concept though, where he pretty much brings time to Dormammu. Somebody who doesn't know the concept of time, he brings time from his world.
Oh yeah.
I think it's really crazy and very cool. Like where he can be like, it doesn't matter. You can kill me as many times as you want because I'm going to be able to just keep coming back. And I don't know. It's nuts. It's very, very cool.
Yeah. And then what is it that he said? Oh, well, you'll spend eternity in like suffering.
Suffering, yeah.
It's not just like dying, but he's
will suffer. Oh, pain's an old friend.
Pain's an old friend.
Yeah, that's it's good lines. Good lines.
Yeah.
And what an interesting way to fight the endgame boss. You know, he doesn't actually fight him. He uses logic against him. That's so Doctor Strange. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it'd also be kind of weird at the same time if he did all of a sudden have enough like strength and power to fight back. It would kind of be like really out of character at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I guess it's kind of nice that this leaves Dormammu kind of open for like a subsequent movie, kind of like later on.
Yeah,
potentially.
I
mean, like I don't think they would, but like that's something that we kind of come across in comics, right? Like that characters don't necessarily die. They're temporarily gone for whatever reason.
No one's ever really gone.
Yeah. What's that from?
That's actually the last trailer to Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. It just said no one's ever really gone.
Okay.
And now it's just become kind of a meme. It's just like no one dies in movies anymore. It's just no one's ever really gone.
Oh,
because we can always bring them back.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's an interesting fight scene at the end there, and then Doctor Strange obviously wins. He then bargains with Dormammu.
He wins time.
He wins. If you could win time. He heads back to the Earth and then pretty much doesn't have to fight Kaecilius because Kaecilius gets banished to the dark realm, dark dimension, with his zealots. I don't know if they die or if they just get banished. It's hard to know.
I don't think they die. I mean, like the deal was for them to like be taken with Dormammu.
Yeah.
Like they have bodies that are still kind of like writhing. They look like charcoal burn kind of thing, right?
They
like,
do, yeah.
As they're being brought out. So
like
I think
shadows
like
or something. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I guess like they have to shed their human skin because like it wouldn't be able to last in the dark dimension.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I don't think they die. It looks like they live. But
we may
like,
get
they live in agony.
We may get a Return of Jafar kind of situation with Kaecilius later on in the Doctor Strange movies. I don't know, but for now he seems to be gone. And that's pretty much the end. Then Doctor Strange and Wong and Mordo just kind of have a conversation about how they're now going to be the defenders of Earth from all the other dimensions. And then Mordo pretty much says, "No, I'm out. I'm going to go.
I'm out.
I'm going to do my own thing because this is nuts and I don't believe in anything anymore." His mind is like mush at this moment.
So distraught.
Yeah. He can't trust anyone anymore after finding out that the one person he looked up to the most was actually using the dark dimension. So now he's like, "Nope, screw it, I'm gone," and leaves.
Yeah.
And that's the end. That is Doctor Strange.
Is that the end? Is that how it ends? I guess that's pretty much it. He puts down the amulet and then...
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss something?
No, that's pretty much it. He returns the amulet, and then Wong...
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he goes back to the
Sanctum.
Sanctum.
One day you'll learn enough to use it again or whatever. And
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how it goes. And Doctor Strange... There was actually a thing. It starts playing his theme at the end here. Starts playing the Doctor Strange theme, and I could be totally off here, but it sounded like his theme would work in the Avengers theme.
Oh, let me.
What is the Avengers theme again?
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, that's it. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So I don't know the Strange theme. I can't really hear it right now. I'm not playing the audio of the movie. But when I heard it, I was like, oh, weird. It sounded like that would actually play alongside the Avengers theme. And it made me think they should have done this where every one of the heroes' themes actually all played together and like were in the same key, or at least would work as well in the Avengers theme, because it would have been like harmony all working together or something. It would have been nuts. I don't know how you would have made it work, but it would have been so cool if that worked.
That would have been really cool.
Well,
somebody's going to do that now. Now that you've said it, and we have listeners,
yes,
one of those listeners is going to do it.
So all in all, though, good film. Let's move on to the after credit scenes. There is one quick one where Thor meets Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
We're actually going to talk more about this in Thor Ragnarok when it happens, but
when it happens,
for the time being, we just know that Loki is for some reason on Earth, and Doctor Strange doesn't really want Loki to be on Earth all that long, so he tells Thor, "Let's go see your dad."
And that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much the scene. He gives him a beer. I like the beer. That's good.
Refillable beer? Yeah.
It's nice to see Thor again. We haven't seen him in a long time, so it's nice to see him back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a tease before we see him. Well, actually, Thor Ragnarok.
Two more movies, right? Or three more movies?
Yeah, okay.
3 more movies, actually. And then our second scene, we get Mordo. Mordo's rampage. So he goes back to our first guy, Pangborn. And Mordo
sounds like a Harry Potter character.
I know. Mordo goes and he says, "I finally understand what's wrong with this world. Too many magicians? Sorcerers. I couldn't remember.
Too many wizards.
Yeah, wizards. I couldn't remember what he said.
Too many wizards, Harry.
Sauces.
Yeah.
Too many.
So he's basically just become like a sorcerer hunter.
Yeah, he's a bad guy now. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mordo is actually a bad guy in the comics, and
he's actually a main villain to Doctor Strange.
But I think he's only ever been a villain in the comics, and this was like the first kind of like, let's make him a hero. So I think to a lot of people who knew the comics were like, oh, weird, Mordo's like good. So I think they probably knew he was going to be bad.
They kind of gave him like a subtle origin story within this movie.
Yeah, which it makes sense. He's over emotional. A lot of villains are using emotion, and that's why they screw up. That's fear leads to
that's
anger.
Why they screw up. See, if they just had no emotion, then they'd be fine.
Yeah,
they would win.
Well, that's all Star Wars is, right? If you're too emotional, then the dark side kicks in.
Yeah, you die.
Yeah, you have to be Luke. You have to be stone, no emotion.
Yeah, I mean, he does die, but not out of emotion.
True.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's after the whole movie. Anth0z, let me ask you this. What's the worst character in the movie?
Mordo.
I'd have to agree, and I think we've already gone over it so much. I just don't like him either.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Mordo.
Yeah.
Anth0z, what's the best character in this film?
I'm just going to be a little bit different and say Wong. He didn't get a lot of scenes, but I just enjoyed watching him. He just has like these funny moments that just like they're suitable for his character, and I think they're suitable just to kind of like play off of Doctor Strange's character.
Yeah.
I just enjoy it. Like, there's that one moment later on when Doctor Strange has that sort of like heroic last line sort of thing. Like, I can't remember what he says. Something about time to.
And he's like, sometimes the warnings come after the spell.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what he says. And then
he just starts laughing.
Wong just cracks up. Like, I don't like it. it's really cheesy and it shouldn't be as funny, but like to me it just happens to be really funny, and I think it's because Wong just does it really well. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a good actor. I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, you.
Mine. I thought you were gonna say Doctor Strange, so mine is Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I think he's by far the best character in this whole film. I think he blows out of the water. Benedict
Yeah.
Cumberbatch does an amazing job. I remember the day they said that he was going to be Doctor Strange, and I was like, holy crap, like, there it is. That's the cast. That's great. And he was amazing. But I will give a runner-up to Kaecilius. Mads Mikkelsen did a great job.
Oh, yeah.
He's fun to watch
yeah.
on screen. He's one of the fun villains. I like watching fun villains. And I'm curious to know more. And I also, like, I could almost watch, like, a prequel movie about Mads Mikkelsen's character going up through, learning from the Ancient One and all that. I could almost watch that. That would be very interesting for me.
I could probably watch that. Yeah.
So yeah, runner-up goes to him, but still, Doctor Strange is by far the best in this movie. Let's go. How does this movie rate as a piece of a bigger picture, like how comics are pieces of arcs?
So I see this as being kind of like the higher end, so maybe I'd give it a 7 or 8, because out of 53, because we had enough time to get introduced to some characters that not only are pivotal for this but could potentially be pivotal for subsequent movies.
For sure. Yeah.
So yeah, like the fact that Dormammu and Kaecilius, like none of them died. Mordo has gone on to do his own thing. Doctor Strange has taken over what once was the Ancient One's position, which means that opens up like a whole new possibilities to like what does that even entail. So and I think and we didn't mention this earlier, but Wong does say that
the eye.
The eye is the Infinity Stone,
yeah,
right? So
exactly.
I think because
the time stone,
yeah, that and there's a lot of reference to the multiverse and just time. Like a lot of the things that they talk about, yes, it's for this movie, but they end up using a lot of it to make Endgame work. I guess a bit of Infinity War and Endgame as well.
Sure.
More so Endgame.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the information is probably like there's a lot packed in there, which I don't know if it had to be necessarily packed in so much, but like it worked. And I would say I'm able to enjoy this as kind of like one arc, learning about all there is to do with like Kamar-Taj and like the magic and what like the time stone does and stuff like that. So we learned a lot, but then we have a lot of information that we can take going forward. So yeah, that's why I give it maybe 8, a hard 8. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you on
you?
that. I think especially because it's got the Infinity Stone in it, it connects really well to the MCU. I think at this moment in time, most of these movies do this too, because they just really knew where they were going. I think from this point on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like by now we're in phase 3. Like they definitely had more things hashed out just towards Infinity War and Endgame. Yeah,
but it's good. It's just really good, and I think it works really well in this larger arc.
Yeah. We have okay, so in phase 3 we just watched the second movie.
Yep.
So next is Guardians Volume 2, Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok. Okay, actually, well, phase 3 has a lot of movies.
Yeah, so we even though we started phase 3, we only just recently passed over the halfway point. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
so yeah, that's right. Yeah,
for sure. But they're all good ones. So.
A lot of them are good. Without Far From Home, there's 10 movies in phase 3.
Yeah.
So 11 including. Wow. So phase 3 is just half of the whole MCU.
It's long. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. But with that, that's the end of this one. So thank you guys so much for listening. Anth0z just mentioned it, but yeah, be sure to catch us on the next one where we're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I'm so freaking excited for. I don't know why I like this one so much, but I know it's good. I just remember, maybe not necessarily story-wise, because I know it's not like super high stakes, but I just remember there being really good scenes, very emotional scenes, and very fun scenes. So I'm excited to see all that.
I'm really excited for it, seeing a little bit more of the kind of like random father-son relationship with not with Ego or Ego, but with
Ego, with what's his name?
Oh shoot, what is his name?
Star-Lord and the other dude.
Yeah. I'm freaking Mary Poppins.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm excited. Yondu.
Thank you.
Well, Yondu out of here, so have a good one, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, bye.
We say that every time here. We'll see you on the next one.
We will, I guess, that's right.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.